Thank you so much, Mr. Viljoy. Very enlightening talk indeed. And actually, we are now going to start our panel discussion on RM journey, challenges, and triumphs. So if I may call the panel members, please, up to the stage. Mr. Badr Shimamri, KPC Manager, Corporate Risk Management. Mr. Anwar Sabij, CEO at Warba Insurance. Mr. Peter Smith, Partner at Quantro Consultants. Mr. Alexander Larson, President of Baldwin Global Risk Services, and Mr. Rahat Latif, Head of ERM and BCM at Qatar Gas. And of course, our moderator, Ms. Jean Rowe, will be moderating the panel today, and she is the co-founder and managing partner at Allied Consulting Enterprises Worldwide. So I'll leave now the floor to Jean, please, to take us through our panel discussion.
Thank you. Is it working? So good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. We have a distinguished group of panelists here today to discuss. Okay, now that I'm blinded by the light. Today we have a distinguished group of panelists here to discuss risk management, enterprise risk management, challenges and triumphs. Collectively, we have probably decades of experience here on the stage here that we can share information, lessons learned, pearls of wisdom, and something hopefully practical experience and application that you can take back if you're facing a similar problem in your own organization. I'm not saying we're old, though, when I say we have decades of experience. I think we all probably started working when we were 12. I think that was the age we agreed to tell you. We only have 40 minutes to cover a very large topic that, of course, is near and dear to everyone's heart here in the session. We've all talked about this. If you all would like to if you would like to speak with us after the session is over, during the conference, any of the breaks of the networking, we're happy to meet with anyone. I also have like 25 years in business continuity, so I just got my contingency plan handed to me, so that's great. Okay, so we do have 40 minutes to cover the challenges and triumphs. And so our first topic that we'd like to speak with, and it actually was touched upon in the prior presentation, and that is embedding business enterprise risk management within the culture, the business culture, and the framework of an organization, gaining buy-in at all levels to ensure that both risk and opportunities are addressed, and that risk management doesn't just become, oh, yeah, we have a heat map, we have a monthly report we have to give to someone, and we got to check in the box for doing this task that is something that is also not our everyday 100% of our responsibility. So the first topic that we're going to talk about, and I'll open the floor for the panelists, is how you've addressed the challenge of embedding enterprise risk management within the culture and the framework of your organizations, and some practical applications that others can take away from that.
I'll take that first. So the challenge of embedding risk management, for me, the key challenge of it is that it's constant. It's an ongoing process. There's no, yeah, we've done it, high five moment. It's an ongoing process. And I think Martin touched on it on his presentation, is that the world is changing and business is changing, technology is changing, and therefore ERM has to change with it. And therefore, when you're embedding risk management, you can't embed a single process and then step back. You have to constantly be evolving and re-embedding, if you like, into the business. And a way to do that is to keep up with technology and what's happening, but also keep your people driven and keep your people battling constantly, and that drive needs to stay. And if you need to retrain your risk managers and send them out to conferences like this to learn about what's happening in the wider world and take in the advice of others so that they can back into the organisation and reinvigorate that.
That's a really good point, to ensure that you maintain risk management doesn't stay on the back burner within your organization, that you keep it dynamic. Would any of you else like to add to that?
Yeah, just to go back to the previous presentation by Martin, a couple of things he pointed out. One size does not fit all. When you're building a risk culture in an organization, when you're trying to build a framework, you have to look at the organization itself. What's the region? What's the industry? What drives the organization? What kind of people do we have? What's the organizational culture? All of these things you have to consider. It might be a heavily process-driven organization, in which case maybe you want to move in that direction to embed risk management. The other thing was the risk manager or the risk management department. I've always viewed it as not a desk job. We shouldn't just be waiting for risk reports or risk data to come to us. In my opinion, the risk manager should always be out in the business, networking, building up relationships, selling risk management. Risk management is a sales job. Understand what drives people in the organization. It might be different from department to department. It might be an organizational view, but you have to see what drives people to do risk management. And one of the biggest problems I've seen is people don't know why they're doing risk management. They're told to do risk management, but they don't know why. Peter touched on training. Training is important, not just for risk managers, but for all staff. We expect the first line of defense, the staff. All our staff are responsible for risk. But are they trained? If they're not trained, how can we expect them to protect our reputation, enhance our organization, and meet our objectives? So I think a lot of it is networking and understanding what drives people and communicating why we're doing risk management. The positives of risk management, not just we're going to stop things from happening. No, it's going to drive innovation. It's going to allow us to take more risk. And that's another important thing. A lot of people look at risk management and think it's going to stop us doing our job. We want to drive home the message that no, by understanding our risks, we make better decisions and we can take more risk, more opportunity, better reward.
Very good points. Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to add a few words. I'd agree with my co-panelists and also the previous speakers. It really does depend on embedding the maturity of the organization first. You'll find that for an organization first implementing risk management or ERM, a lot of the effort is in awareness raising and training, but that doesn't stop, as you go through years. That's a continuous process. You feel you have to keep doing that. And so whilst I agree with the previous speaker that the ERM focus should be on future gazing and adding more value, that's all great. But I think what we have to bear in mind is that ERM teams are typically small, right? A small core team. So a lot of the work and activity is in the persistent risks. But what I liked about the talk with what KPC is doing with the ERM community, that's great. That's leveraging the organization to embed risk management. So I think that's what the internal team needs to do. The small team needs to do is leverage the organization through risk champions, through risk committees, through the ERM community to embed risk. The other area that Karagas has particularly been trying to do in terms of embedding risk is embed risk in decision making, right down at the procedure level, right down when you're looking at, let's say, the criticality of procedures. How critical is this procedure? And you do that by asking, what are the risks? What are the controls that we're embedding in this? And what if we don't have this? So making risk part of your decision making, part of your almost institutionalizing it, for want of a better word, gets that embedding going. Yeah, I think that's.
I would like to also.
With your microphone. Is it on mute? It's on. Is it on mute?
Okay.
No, it seems to be on. Maybe.
Here.
I'd like to share experience at my company. When we started the risk management activity, it was for a reason. Okay, and we had, in the early 2000, we had 2 major incidents, which triggered, the need for risk management. And from that, risk management started to be part of our strategy. So we started having risk management best practices in ERM or in KPC 2020 strategy, where we have built the ERM framework. And that included the ERM policy, the roles and responsibilities, the risk committees, and the risk management system, and so on, including selecting the ERM process, where we selected what suits KPC and the subsidiaries. And then we moved on, into the ERM 2030 strategy, where we, focused on quantifying the risks and embedding the risk into our organization. And that also had very serious challenges. The challenges were how I can transfer that complex financial and mathematical models, and get it comprehended by our senior management and our risk owners and colleagues to basically believe in it and assess the value of it and make it part of their decision making. And that involved a lot of training, boot camps, awareness sessions, specialized certifications, courses for the focal points. So it took a lot of time and it cost a lot. And I think that the learning from that exercise is going to be implemented in our ERM 2040 strategy, which we are going to be concentrating on technology, e-learning, and also in the involvement of the risk owners into implementing the different initiatives of our ERM 2040 strategy. So I think that the involvement of the risk owners is of paramount importance, and that we need to get them involved, get everybody involved, and not work in silos. And I think that that will have the positive culture, risk culture that we are targeting. Thank you.
Mr. Anwar, would you like to say something?
Can you hear me? No.
Yes.
It's okay? Yeah. As a CEO, I'm not particularly a risk management, into risk management heavily, I will say. What I try to do, we're all involved in risk, right? To simplify it. When you have a robust, we do have a CRO, sorry, and when you have a robust risk management into an organization, the organization can retract, I would say, right? So you need to get them on board. And the one thing we learned really quickly is to get these quick wins. So we sat down with the CRO, right, and she did a really good job trying to get the 5 quick wins. And then our organization, people got confused a bit, I would say. And I think in every organization, are they auditors? Are they not auditors, right? What are they really doing? So I try to simplify it, right? I said, you know what? Any organization has a process. Whatever we do, we implement a process. An audit function checks that process if you're doing it or not. The risk, what they do with that process, they just review it and say, you know what, maybe it's good if you do it this way rather than that way. It gives you another 2 eyes, or you call 4-eye principle. So it gives you the 2 eyes. Then after some time, you need to get the risk owners with the risk management intertwined, because the risk employees need to understand how we operate on the operations side. And the operations side has to understand what the risk looks at. So once that's accomplished, then the organization can go forward, really quickly.
Thank you. They're all good points about embedding the culture and the awareness and making your enterprise risk management program a very dynamic program and not something that is just a reporting function. And our panelists have touched on the need for continual process improvement, continual training and awareness programs in order to keep it off the back burner and embedded into their everyday work, that they have this awareness of when they are implementing a new process or a new project, or that they are looking at a new opportunity, that they weigh the risk, and they have to strike a balance between managing risk and not hindering progress or the opportunity to be innovative and be more profitable as a company. So I think that the next topic that we'll touch on is a few of our panelists and also Martin, our speaker before, had talked about the need for qualified resources. We touched about on how important it is for the staff, for employees, human resources, whether internal or external, to understand why they're doing this, that it's not just because the CEO or the CFO or someone said we have to do risk management, that there's a true benefit. There's a true need for it, and understanding why. So the next topic that I'd like to cover is how to address engaging the focal points for risk management at all levels within an organization, and also, because risk management involves involving the board, if you have a board, as well as your executive top management team, your middle management, all the way down. As one of our panelists mentioned, everyone has a responsibility for risk. And how do you address the need for qualified and trained resources that will carry the torch of enterprise risk management?
There is no doubt that risk professionals, should be a multidisciplinary team. A team that are knowledgeable of the different activities of the organization, and this is, and they have to be, motivated. They have to be capable, and they need to basically drive, the subject, and be ahead of the game, and this is a challenge by itself. So we have to examine, all the elements of having, that kind of manpower, or that kind of resources join the ERM profession. The second, which is the focal points, and the focal points is a very good idea, and it should be implemented. But unfortunately, we have not been successful in selecting or and having the right focal point. The focal point quality has to be knowledgeable, capable, motivated, and he knows his business, so that he can, be given the dose of risk management expertise, and will be a support to his own unit, and will be our contact person, between the risk management discipline and the business unit. So we are not losing hope. We think that we can eventually get to this stage. We have the focal points, and we also realize that we have a responsibility of training them, making sure that they are exposed to all our activities. But we also require the management to support that idea, to have the right capable focal points, and also stay there permanently or at least for a long time, and not get replaced by different people, so that all of our effort, okay, will kind of go to waste. So this is how I look at the capability. Of course, this subject is, we can go on and on and on, but I think realizing the time. Okay, we will stop here.
Can I follow on from that? I like a lot of the points you made there. One thing that you had mentioned was, how do we engage and keep people trained? And something that's really important to remember, the experts, the ones that know the risk are already in our organization. They are the staff. They are the experts. And I think then, going back to how do you choose the right risk focal point? Well, first of all, they need to want to do it. Secondly, they need the soft skills, because they need to be able to facilitate a workshop and use the experts to try to capture what those risks are and try to engage people. So they need the right personality. But I think recognition is something that they need, or rewards, whether it's built within their appraisal, whether it's health and safety are very good at this. You always have staff awards. Every organization I've been to, there's usually health and safety staff awards, and people are quite happy because they're engaged. You don't have that so much with risk management. So I think organizations and risk management departments need to be a bit more progressive from that point of view, engaging people by rewarding them. Ideally, in monetary value, but that's not always so easy. I'm going to talk about projects later, and projects are always driven by bonuses. Well, why aren't they driven also by risk, managing risk, reward? So I think that's really important to understand what's in it for them in order to drive that process. And just as important, leading from the top. People need to see that risk management, we're not just identifying risk and then it goes up. It's actually being used. People are making decisions. So that's where leadership need to understand how to use it. And I was working with an organization in Oman who actually sent 35 leaders, future leaders. They had a future leadership course. They had 7 pillars that you needed to learn about. One was risk management. It was a week training followed up by an assignment, which went on for a couple of weeks, and they all had to work in their groups. But that was a requirement. If you want to be a future CEO or a future VP, you must have gone through this course and you must know risk management. And then they will drive risk management through the organization, and people will see they take risk management serious as well. Thanks.
If I can add, what really helped us to go to my colleague here, what we did a training program for ERM, obviously, with our employees, but also did a program because we're in the insurance industry, right? So we use the word risk quite often. A little bit different than ERM uses it, right? In the risk management side. So we thought we try to now do training programs about insurance to our risk management team. Because what happens then, it's not just the risk in the organization. When you're implementing risk, you see everything's going to the risk and everyone learning about the risk. But you need to go the other way as well. You need the operations side, let them, ERM in our side, be insurance qualified. We have CIP, FCII, CIF qualifications. We try to get them to get the qualifications as well. So what happens is it's a good merger between the operations and risk management. Now in an industry like in energy, there's quite a bit of tendency, like in the refinery side, administration side, etc. Same as in insurance, we have different lines of businesses and different claims modules, right? And even investment side. So once you get the two corresponding together, then it becomes a robust system in the organization.
That's a really good point. It's very important to break down the silos. And you've got your feet in two camps because your business in insurance is managing risk, as well as you have the internal risk of your own organization. So it's a really good example of how to, strike that balance and embed it within not only your business, but in the culture of your organization and with your people.
Yeah, because what happens is our insurance will say, we understand risk. We insure a building, we insure the petroleum, right? We insure the refineries, we insure the cargo. We understand risk, but it's a different type of risk. You know, it's that as well, you know, if you combine loss ratios, your processes, your investment strategies. So it's a combination. So once everybody understands that, then it becomes, you know, the silos gets knocked down pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and that's, you know, one of the benefits of enterprise risk management versus traditional risk management is that you share risk across your organization, and that way you may have a risk that someone may think is really small, and it may have a huge impact upstream or downstream to another group. And so that's all the more reason to embed it across the entire organization and not just cherry pick who's going to be responsible, you know, that it's incorporated in all levels. Does anyone...
I would say one thing.
Yeah, sure.
If it's really good, if you back test. So what we decided to do, we did some back testing on what the risk, our ERM had accomplished. You do some back testing and then show it to the employees, and then they get more of a buy-in into the system.
Can you elaborate more on when you say back testing so that everyone understands?
Well, I would say, you know, again, as a CEO, right? So I say, okay, when we implement a risk, what is the benefits that happen? If you look at a small thing, operations risk, right? Your processes. How do you issue a policy? How is it being delivered to the client? We take a look at, you know, a plan for that, right? So how did that improve? If we have somebody else looking at it, insurance people will say, you know what, we've been doing this, or any other sector, 10, 15, 20 years. We know what we're doing. But we just need somebody else to take a look at it and say, you know what, you can actually do it a little bit better this way, right? And that's how we back tested it, for example. And it actually worked.
So a second set of eyes on...
It is, you know, it is.
Yeah, it's human nature that if you see and do the same thing every day, you might, you know, walk past something or I've worked in environmental health and safety, and one of my clients, they walked by and they do these checks every day through this facility, and they get used to seeing the same thing, and sometimes they overlook. So it's often good to have a second set of eyes.
So I give advice to the speaker previously. I lost my luggage one time. The second time, I carry-on with the suit inside.
Can I go back to the topic of focal points? I'll share your experience the same. So when we first introduced ERM, we asked for focal points. We went out and you know, asked for nominations, and we kind of accepted whoever was put forward. And experience showed us that some were excellent, but others we could do without, kind of thing. So I think through time, what happens, we develop a criteria for who we're looking for. Right, a minimum set of capabilities and competencies and that sort of thing. And now what we have, and I'm sure I go back to what Alex was saying, is that, you know, what's in it for them? You know, what's the benefit for them in this? And so we've incorporated this into their objectives, for example, the annual appraisal, so they get recognition for the task. But it's not just the focal points, though. You've got to think about the capabilities of everyone around the company. So what is the minimum set that's required for everybody? Does everybody need to go through some mandatory training? What do our management leadership need? I mean, that's important. The previous speaker talked of us as ERM people, as facilitators. We really are facilitators and coaches. So what capabilities does our management team need? I mean, and that's important to look at. Is risk a key part of our leadership development framework? It is in Qatargas, right? I'm sure it's in other companies too. But what level of capabilities do we need in risk management for different types of staff in terms of whether they're focal points or whether the central team or whether they're leadership? All of that needs to be thoroughly thought out and put in place for proper embedding.
Absolutely, and also the question of how do you ensure that your board takes the risk seriously and that they have the competency to manage risks that are brought to their attention, and that it's that they have they have an understanding of what the impacts are if they don't address the risk, and what responsibility falls on their shoulders. So have you had?
Can I just add to that? They're talking about risk focal points or champions, and obviously the risk team and qualifications. The quality of people isn't just in their qualifications, skills and experience. I think Alex mentioned it about soft skills. So I'm just saying about the quality of people isn't just in their qualifications. The soft skills and personality is vital, and especially for our previous topic, embedding risk management. To be not a desk risk manager and being out there and mixing and embedding risk management, you need those soft skills and personalities. And I guess one very common sales example is sell me this pen. And the qualified person will sell the pen by explaining how good the pen is, how amazing the ink is, how it flows on the page, and they'll know everything about that pen. But that person might not buy that. The person who will get the sale will be the person who understands the needs of the person they're selling to and can focus on their personality and what drives them and tell them why they need a pen, not how good the pen is. And that difference, that nuance, is something that makes all the difference when you're finding quality of people to embed risk management in your organisation.
And I'll just add to that, it's really important that the person that you do choose, or whoever the focal point is, that they're passionate about the benefits of risk management and the role that they're going to play. Excellent points from all of you, that there are soft skills involved. It's not just a matter of, here's our charge for enterprise risk management and you have to do this. But they need to get normally results from people not under their direct control. They may not have a direct report from this person. They need those interpersonal skills that they can liaise across groups and share information and connect the dots of one risk versus an issue or a problem across the enterprise, so that you truly reap the benefit of the program.
Can I share one example of recognition? We have a system called Spot Awards. Basically, anybody can award anything to somebody else if they recognize good work. And that something on those lines I feel really works when you have a system or process for recognition, not just during your annual appraisal, but also at any time. If there's a job well done and you're able to reward individuals for that, then they know that they're doing something right, it's recognized, it's valuable, and that encourages others too.
Are the Spot Awards money or recognition or both?
Both.
Or both?
A certificate, money, something to put on the wall. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry, can I go back to something that was brought up a bit earlier, that risk management departments tend to be a bit small, which makes it quite challenging in terms of trying to drive it through the organization. Also, I'm aware that some people in the room might be just trying to set up risk management rather than having an established risk management framework already. Sometimes you might just want to start with one department or one division and just pilot it, see how it goes, get them to see the value and get them to sell it to the rest of the organization and roll it out in a phased approach rather than trying to grab the whole organization and struggling because lack of people. Another thing, going back to some real experience, was I joined Lukoil, a Russian oil and gas company, in Dubai. I was working there for a couple of years with their project team. We were building in Iraq. Now, the project team was based in Dubai. That was great. I was able to build a positive risk culture. They were identifying risk, but the operations side in Iraq, they didn't want to hear about this risk management thing because Dubai know nothing about what we're doing here in Iraq. And they were right, by the way. So we left them until I was able to transition from, okay, project teams are comfortable on their own now. I'm actually going to move to Iraq and do the work in Iraq. And it wasn't until I was able to transition to Iraq that suddenly they were willing to listen to me. Before, they wouldn't. So it's important that you identify those who you can work with initially and then slowly roll it out.
Enterprise risk management programs, as well as business continuity and crisis response programs. With risk management, we call it low-hanging fruit, quick wins. If you can identify those, if you have a newly implemented or you're just trying to begin an enterprise risk management initiative, to be able to show management quick wins, immediate return on their investment of addressing and implementing an enterprise risk management program, it helps to bolster that larger initiative of rolling this out across the entire enterprise. So that's a really good point. So we are I remembered the safety video about not looking at my phone while I'm trying to drive, but I swore that I would keep to the time. We're at the 5-minute mark, and we're the only thing that stands between you and a coffee break. So we'd like to wrap up with talking the last 5 minutes from our distinguished panel of experts here, quick wins that they've experienced that may be something that you can glean pearls of wisdom from and take back and use in your own organization, or it might give you an idea of something that you can do as well to maybe get a small triumph in the implementation of your ERM program. So I'll open the floor. We have 5 minutes.
I think that risk management, over the years and based upon our experience, it requires the support of the senior management. It has to be led by them. It has to, if they see that there is something wrong with this program, they will interfere and they will make sure that it goes re-straightened and fulfill the objective of having the risk management program within the organization. From at the beginning, when the risk management was developed, even the members of the risk management were basically cherry-picked. From capable people who are able to basically take the risk management from the fragmented and the ad hoc all the way to becoming strategic. So I would require, or I expect, maybe our senior management to also, lead that exercise.
One quick win that I think is really easy to implement, you could literally go back to your office and do it, is sharing success. A lot of companies have internal corporate communications, magazines or e-magazines that go out by email, or even chairman's notices that go out to all staff. And if the risk management department implement something, if there's a risk averted because you've put in a mitigation plan and you've saved money, communicate that. Put it out to your organisation through those means, and people will start to see the value right from the top all the way to the bottom.
Okay. I think that one quick win that can be undertaken by any company anywhere is that we all have lots of meetings. We all have department meetings, we have group meetings. Just ask 3 questions. What are our top 3 risks at every meeting? If you address that and say, okay, and what are our controls, have that as part of your agenda for every meeting, that gets the mind thinking. The other thing I'd like to say, particularly about the oil and gas sector, and like a lot of other sectors, it's a highly hazardous industry, and safety is paramount. Our persistent risks we know about, can kill the company. So complacency. And a key question is, at every meeting, how do we stop being complacent? Right, just ask that question. What are our top 3 risks, and how do we stop being complacent? Yes.
Another thing, Rahat, I was going to mention as well at the end of each meeting, just ask the question. It builds organically. But basically, I think another way as well is to have a risk management budget. It might just be a small one to capture the low-hanging fruit, the quick wins. So a lot of the time you see risks being highlighted on a personal, one-to-one basis with superiors and so forth. Nothing ever happens. If you can build into the risk management process that when we capture certain risks that are easy to manage, we can assign budget to it, not only will it encourage people to actually identify risk because, hey, we might actually get this dealt with for once, but also other departments who didn't get assigned any budget will think, well, maybe if we start identifying risk, we'll also get some budget to spend on some of the risks we have. And it doesn't need to be a big budget. It could be one division has a budget for all the departments, or it could just be a corporate budget that is assigned to, some of the easier and better risks to manage. Especially if we reward it based on how well the risk has been written, for example, or captured with the right information. That can encourage people to do it right as well.
Oh, that's a good point. There is a case study that a lot of universities use regarding how to get quick wins. Oops, I'll be really quick, I promise. And an organization, it was a retail seller in the United States, they went to and had brainstorming workshops with the lowest level. We're talking the people who stock the shelves with the merchandise. And this was in an organization that they were in a hurricane-prone area. And normally, for those of you who have ever lived in the part of the United States that have a lot of hurricanes, businesses board up. They put up plywood, they evacuate just like everyone else. And in one of these risk management workshops held with people who are making minimum wage, they said, you know what, if we stayed and we supported the community, if we brought in extra water, extra batteries, extra paper, wood, whatever people need to tide them over, because we know what's going to happen. We're going to lose electricity. We may have not potable water. And they took that, management took that idea, and they've turned it around so that that organization, that company, now is known as a supporter of the communities in which there are hurricanes. They do not close. They stay open. They bring in extra batteries, extra everything that normally the community would run out of, and they stay there to support it. And what happened was it increased their profitability dramatically. It increased their brand reputation for being there for the community and the people it serves, and it really bought them a lot of goodwill with the community and with their investors and their stakeholders. So, and that was something that came out of a low-hanging fruit. Hey, why don't we just talk to the lower levels? It was just someone's idea. So that's another possible quick win, and also could get you some traction at different levels. So we are out of time, and we thank you. I thank the panelists for sharing your pearls of wisdom and your ideas and suggestions, and also sharing your challenges and experience. So thank you very much. Thank you for the audience for hanging out with us until the coffee break. So.
And we're going to be breaking now for a coffee break. However, if we can try to reconvene in 15 minutes, because we are a bit ahead of schedule, we need to make sure that everyone's on time. So 15 minutes if that's all right. Thank you.
Straight from the coffee break for the presentation of the, or I think that's after, maybe more towards the end of the day. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Next we will speak
they will use this one?
I will bring laptop, please.
Laptop?
Wait,
Okay, I will bring the HDMI.
yes.
And
Oh my God, hi. Hi, how are you?